Story 1. The Mimic in the Victorian Manse. I was a broke college student living in Boston, trying to juggle tuition and rent. When my professor, Dr. Eris, asked if I wanted to house-sit his historic Victorian home in Salem for 2 weeks while he took his family to Greece, I jumped at the chance. The pay was incredible, and it meant 2 weeks away from my cramped dorm room. The house was beautiful, but imposing. 3 stories of dark wood, stained glass, and narrow hallways that smelled of old paper and cedar. Dr. Eris had 3 cats, Luna, Sol, and Jasper. They were sweet, clingy things that followed me everywhere. The first few days were fine. I studied in the library, fed the cats, and enjoyed the solitude. But on the 4th night, the atmosphere shifted. My boyfriend, Mark, came over for dinner. He's usually a skeptic, the kind of guy who laughs at horror movies. But halfway through eating pizza in the living room, he got quiet. "Do you feel that?" he asked, rubbing his arms. "It feels heavy in here." Like the air pressure dropped. "It's an old house, Mark. It's drafty," I said, though I felt it too. A cold, static charge that made the hair on my arms stand up. Mark left around midnight. He begged me to come with him, saying he had a bad gut feeling, but I refused. I needed the money, and leaving the cats alone overnight was a deal breaker. I locked the heavy oak front door, set the alarm, and went to bed in the guest room on the 2nd floor. Around 2 a.m., I woke up. The TV in the corner of the room had turned on. It wasn't playing a show. It was just static, white noise hissing at full volume. I grabbed the remote and turned it off. 5 seconds later, it clicked back on. Hiss. I unplugged it from the wall. The silence that followed was deafening. I tried to go back to sleep, but 10 minutes later, I heard it. From the floor below me, specifically from the kitchen area, came a sound. It was a baby crying. Not a kitten mewling. A human infant, wailing in distress. My blood ran cold. Dr. Eris didn't have a baby. I remembered reading that some cats can mimic baby cries to get attention. I grabbed my phone for a flashlight and crept into the hallway. "Jasper? Luna?" I whispered. I walked down the creaky main staircase. The crying got louder. It was coming from the basement door, which was located in the kitchen. I opened the basement door. The wailing stopped instantly. I shined my light down the stairs. Sitting on the bottom step was Jasper, the orange tabby. He looked up at me, blinked, and trotted up the stairs, purring. "Okay," I exhaled, picking him up. "You little weirdo. You scared me." I brought him upstairs and locked him in the bedroom with me. The next night, Mark came over again. We were watching a movie when the sound started again. This time, it wasn't a baby. It was a woman weeping. Low, mournful sobs echoing up from the ventilation grates. Mark paused the movie. "What the hell is that?" "It's the cats," I said, my voice trembling. "They make weird noises in the basement." "That is not a cat," Mark whispered. We went to the kitchen. The sound was distinct now. It was coming from the basement again. But this time, it sounded like me. It sounded like a recording of my own voice, sobbing, playing on a loop. I looked at the kitchen counter. All 3 cats, Luna, Sol, and Jasper, were sitting there, eating their dinner. They weren't in the basement. Mark grabbed a steak knife from the block. "Stay here." He opened the basement door. The sobbing stopped. Silence. He went down. I waited at the top of the stairs, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Mark? There's nothing here," he called up. "Just the furnace and some boxes." He came back up, looking pale. "Let's just leave. Now." I grabbed my backpack. As we were putting our shoes on by the front door, we heard it again. But it wasn't coming from the basement this time. It was coming from the guest bedroom upstairs, the room we had just left. It was Mark's voice. "Babe, are you ready to go?" Mark was standing right next to me. We stared at each other, eyes wide with terror. Then, from the top of the stairs, we heard heavy, wet footsteps running toward the landing. We didn't wait to see what it was. We burst out the front door and sprinted to his car. I came back the next day, in broad daylight, with Mark and his brother to get my stuff and feed the cats. We found the basement window broken from the inside. Dr. Eris came home early. When I told him what happened, he went pale. He told me that before he bought the house, it had been a makeshift boarding home for psychiatric patients in the 50s. He said the neighbors often heard echoes from the property. I don't know if it was a ghost, a squatter with a talent for mimicry, or something worse. But I know one thing. Whatever was in that house wanted to lure us into the dark by sounding like something we loved. Story 2. The Caller in the Blizzard. Đã rõ, đây là câu chuyện bạn cung cấp, được định dạng theo quy tắc. Thêm tag, vào đầu mỗi 7 câu kết thúc bằng dấu chấm, chấm hỏi, chấm than, và đặt trong khối mã để tiện sao chép. My name is Sarah. This happened back in 2018, when I was a sophomore in college. I go to school in Boulder, Colorado, and for winter break, my roommate Jenna and our friend Becca decided to take a house-sitting gig for Jenna's wealthy aunt in Aspen. The house was less of a house and more of a fortress made of glass and stone. It sat on a ridge overlooking the valley, completely isolated from the neighbors by acres of pine forest. It came with a hot tub, a massive fireplace, and a goofy, lovable golden retriever named Barnaby. On our second night, a massive blizzard rolled in. The roads were dangerously icy, and the wind was howling against the floor-to-ceiling windows. We decided to stay in, drink wine, and binge-watch horror movies. Ironic, I know. Around 11:30 p.m., the house phone rang. It startled us because, honestly, who has a landline anymore? And it was an old-school rotary phone that sat on the kitchen island as a decoration. Jenna picked it up. "Hello?" She listened for a moment, her brow furrowing. No, my aunt isn't here. Who is this?" She put it on speaker so we could hear. A man's voice crackled through the line. He sounded calm, but there was an edge to it. "I found a wallet at the Conoco station down on Main Street. It has your address on the license. I need you to come pick it up." "We can't," Jenna said. "We're snowed in, and my aunt is in Europe. Are you sure it's her wallet?" "It's her wallet," the man insisted. "You need to come get it. Now. I can't wait here all night." "Just leave it with the clerk," Becca chimed in. The man's tone shifted. He wasn't polite anymore. "Don't be difficult. Get in the car and come down here. It's important." The way he said, "get in the car," sent a chill down my spine. It felt like a command. Jenna hung up. That was weird. Why wouldn't he just leave it? We tried to brush it off, but the vibe in the house had changed. We locked all the doors, or so we thought. The house was massive, with multiple sliding glass doors leading to the wraparound deck. We moved to the main living room, which had a huge, sunken couch facing the fireplace. Behind the couch was the open-concept kitchen and dining area. Beyond that was a wall of windows looking out into the pitch-black storm. We watched movies for a few more hours, trying to ignore the wind. Barnaby, the dog, was snoring on the rug. Around 3 a.m. the movie ended. The room was silent except for the crackling fire. I was sitting on the edge of the couch, facing the kitchen. I stretched, yawning, and glanced toward the breakfast nook. My heart stopped. Standing in the shadows of the kitchen, right next to the refrigerator, was a figure. At first, I thought it was a shadow cast by the fire. But then the figure moved. It was a man. He was dressed entirely in black ski gear, heavy parka, snow pants, gloves, and he was wearing a full-face ski mask with reflective goggles pulled down over his eyes. He wasn't looting. He wasn't moving toward us. He was just leaning against the counter, watching us. I froze. My brain couldn't process it. How long has he been there? I kicked Jenna's leg hard. "Jenna," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Kitchen." Jenna turned. She didn't scream. She gasped, a sharp intake of air that sounded loud in the silent room. The man saw us notice him. He didn't run. He didn't lunge. He slowly raised a gloved finger to where his mouth would be under the mask. Shh. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small and leather. A wallet. He tossed it onto the kitchen counter. Thud. It was the wallet he had called about. He hadn't been at the gas station. He had been outside the house. Or worse, he had been inside when he made the call from a cell phone, trying to lure us out into the storm so he could do whatever he planned to do. Becca screamed, "Get out!" The dog, Barnaby, finally woke up. He scrambled to his feet, barking wildly, but he was too scared to approach the figure. The man tilted his head, staring at us through those reflective goggles. Then, with terrifying calmness, he turned and walked out through the mudroom door. We heard the door click shut. We bolted to the master bedroom, locked the heavy door, and huddled in the closet with the dog until the police arrived 20 minutes later. The police found wet boot prints all over the house. He had entered through an unlocked side door in the garage hours earlier. The footprints showed that he had been standing in the hallway, listening to us. He had walked into the kitchen while we were watching the movie. He had been standing behind us for at least an hour. They never caught him. The wallet on the counter? It was empty. It belonged to Jenna's aunt, but it had been stolen from her car in the driveway weeks before she left for Europe. He had kept it as a prop. A lure. I don't house sit anymore, and I don't answer landlines. Story 3. The African Grey. Story 3. The African Grey. I work as a freelance archivist in Los Angeles. It doesn't pay much, so I supplement my income by pet sitting for wealthy clients in the hills. Usually it's just feeding designer dogs and making sure their pools don't overflow. Last October, I landed a gig for a man named Arthur. He was a retired music producer living in a stunning, glass-walled house in Laurel Canyon. The pay was $500 a weekend, which was double my usual rate. Arthur was eccentric. He was in his 60s, wearing silk pajamas at 2 p.m., and he had a very specific set of instructions. "Don't go into the master suite," he told me, pointing to a heavy wooden door at the end of the hall. "And don't mind Echo. He has a colorful vocabulary." Echo was an African grey parrot. If you know birds, you know greys are terrifyingly smart. They don't just mimic sounds, they mimic voices. Echo lived in a massive aviary cage in the living room. Arthur left for a business trip to Tokyo on Friday afternoon. I watched his limo pull away down the winding canyon road. The first night was uneventful. I fed Echo, who just stared at me with those bead-like, intelligent eyes. I watched Netflix and fell asleep in the guest room. The weirdness started on Saturday night. I was reading in the living room around 11 p.m. The house was dead silent, suspended over the canyon. Suddenly, Echo fluffed his feathers and spoke. "Good girl," he whispered. It wasn't a bird voice. It was a perfect recording of Arthur's deep, gravelly baritone. I laughed nervously. "Quiet, Echo." "Shh," Echo hissed. "Don't wake her up." A chill ran down my spine. That wasn't a phrase you teach a bird. That was contextual. I covered the cage and went to bed. I locked the guest bedroom door, a habit from living in the city. Around 3 a.m., I woke up. I didn't know why. The room was pitch black. Then I heard it. The sound of a door handle turning. Jiggle. Jiggle. My eyes shot to my bedroom door. The knob was moving. Someone was trying to get in. I froze, pulling the duvet up to my chin. Maybe it's a draft? Maybe the latch is loose. Then, a soft scratching sound on the wood. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up the room like a spotlight. It was a text from Arthur. Arthur. Echo gets restless at night. If you hear noises, it's just the bird throwing toys. Go back to sleep. I stared at the screen. The timestamp was 3:02 a.m. If Arthur was in Tokyo, it would be the middle of the afternoon there. Why was he texting me the second I woke up? The scratching at the door stopped. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Sunday morning, I was packing my bag, ready to get the hell out of there. I went to the kitchen to get coffee. Echo was agitated. He was pacing back and forth on his perch, bobbing his head. When he saw me, he started making a sound that made my stomach turn. Click, whir, click. It was the sound of a camera shutter, taking rapid-fire photos. Then he looked toward the hallway, specifically toward the locked master suite that Arthur had told me not to enter. "She's leaving," Echo squawked, again in Arthur's voice. "Stop her!" My blood turned to ice. The bird wasn't repeating old phrases. He was reacting to now. I looked at the master bedroom door. There was no light coming from under it. But I heard something. A floorboard creak. From inside the locked room. Then, a cough. A dry, stifled cough. Arthur wasn't in Tokyo. He was in the master suite. He had been there the whole weekend. I grabbed my keys in my bag. I didn't check the other rooms. I didn't say goodbye to the bird. I ran for the front door. As my hand touched the knob, my phone buzzed again. "Arthur, where are you going? The weekend isn't over." I threw the door open and sprinted to my car. As I fumbled with the ignition, I looked back at the house. The master bedroom had a sliding glass door that opened onto a balcony overlooking the driveway. The curtains were parted. Standing there, wearing his silk pajamas, was Arthur. He wasn't smiling. He was holding a camera with a long telephoto lens pointed right at me. I peeled out of the driveway, scraping the side of my car against the canyon wall, and didn't stop until I hit Sunset Boulevard. I went to the police. They did a welfare check. Arthur claimed he had come home early because his trip was canceled. He showed them flight tickets, probably fake or unused. Since he owned the house and I had a key, there was no breaking and entering. But when I got home and unpacked my bag, I found something that made me vomit. Tucked into the pocket of my jeans was a single gray parrot feather and a Polaroid photo. It was a picture of me, sleeping in the guest bed, taken from the doorway. The timestamp was 3:05 a.m. that morning. He had unlocked my door while I was paralyzed with fear. He had come in. He had watched me. And the only reason he didn't do more was because his bird warned him I was waking up.